I've spent about £250,000 over the years. It's probably a bit more than that now.
£250,000 into sort of self-development, learning.
If I look back, I think 90% of it was a waste of time. Hypnosis is something that we do to ourselves every day, all day. So we're in and out of trance states. As a hypnotherapist, my job is to better put you into effectively a theta brainwave state. I use alpha as well, but theta is the one where you can get access to the subconscious. Next time you look at someone who's scrolling on Instagram, tell me if they're in a trance state or not. Our world is a reflection of who we are. So our world is a mirror. We are a mirror, effectively, two ways of the world.
Yet they're an entrepreneur that wants to make a ton of money and have success, yet also feel connected and have thriving relationships rather than just be one-dimensional. What beliefs would you be planting in? Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, bro. And I'm excited to dive into the conversation today with the likes of hypnotherapy and your networking, Bali Connect stuff. And also like to hear about your transformation journey as well, like the journey you've been through to learn and become the man that you are today. So I appreciate having you here.
No, thank you for having me on, man. That's great.
Yeah, man. So let's just zone back and start off, because you had a real period of your life with, how many years have you overcome addiction now?
I've been sober for nearly 13. June the 19th, it'll be 13 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's epic, man.
Yeah.
So like in that, let's like zone back to the addiction days and like just to give some background about what was going on for you back then and what insights you had to why you were experiencing what you were experiencing at that point.
Addiction is a tool to hide from fear that you don't want to face in life. That's the way I view it. And it started off like a lot of things become fun when you're kids and you're doing stuff, you're drinking, smoking, going to parties. We used to organize raves and things like that. So I was heavily in that sort of party scene. So I always had access to that world. And then as time went on, it became a coping mechanism for me to basically hide away from life and not face the problems and challenges that I was going through. A big part of that was my dad had MS my entire life. So watching his health decline steadily over, a 15-year period was pretty difficult to deal with. So instead of facing up to these problems and many other drugs and addiction, for me was the best escape tool. And I think knowing what I know now, I think anyone's addiction is truly that. It's an ability to be able to use those addictions to hide away from the pain of whatever that is, loneliness, fear, insecurity. There's many flavors.
So you see as addiction is a coping mechanism for what someone is not being able to handle in their life emotionally.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
And for you, what specific like addictions were you dealing with?
All of them.
You're like, right, we've got an hour left.
Yeah. How long do you want to go down that one? I mean,
right.
Drink was every day from sort of 13 years old. That was fairly standard for us, and smoking cigarettes and stuff back then as well. And then it sort of morphed into smoking a bit of weed and then all the party drugs that you can imagine. And then because we were in that party scene, it was large volumes. It was, there was always large volumes of everything that you needed around you at any one point. So I became sort of a go-to guy to be able to handle and get all that sort of stuff. So the only saving grace is I have a phobia of needles, and being a hypnotherapist, I know I can get rid of that, but I've never wanted to, because it's the one thing that saved me from going down that route. So, obviously when you start injecting drugs, that becomes a very different level of addiction. And I always have a great respect for anyone who's dealt with any addictions, but especially people that have gone through, heroin use or, using needles and that sort of thing, because it's psychologically, it creates a very different level of addiction. So I was greatly, appreciative that I had that phobia from a young age for whatever reason. So,
yeah. So so for you during that period, you were dealing with these addictions. What did you realize afterwards as the reasons why? Like, what were you hiding from?
I think mostly it was the pain from my experience with my dad and my family and other complex things that were going on in that world. I say it's just a really it's a really good tool to be able to make sure you don't have to grow up and do the adult things in life and face those things and have those difficult conversations. I think men typically, not always, but typically are find opening up and talking about their emotions a bit harder than women do. Not always, but sometimes. And I think, again, that was drugs were a great tool for being able to not open and talk about these things, these emotional ideas and things and challenges that were going on in my mind. I mean, I struggled with depression and all those wonderful things that I know a lot of people go through to a pretty severe level. Food addiction was a pretty big thing for me. Like my weight would yo-yo up and down over the years. So it was a combination of things. And I know now, having dived deep into biohacking for many years now and looked at things from a psychological standpoint as well as a physical, that there are underlying genetic components that can affect, like our DNA, for example, can affect our brain chemistry to a point where we are more likely to be predisposed to depressive natures or agitated or anxiety. And I've actually recently been doing a lot of work around using supplementation and DNA testing to understand how you can mitigate and overcome some of those deficiencies within our DNA. And then obviously you've got epigenetics, which is a different conversation entirely about turning genes on and off with thought and environmental things. But you can use supplementation to actually, and use the DNA and actually use ChatGPT, believe it or not, to take your DNA, put it in there and ask it, what do you recommend as a supplement protocol? I'm obviously not a doctor, so this isn't medical advice, and I don't, people can do what they want and go out there and research their own stuff, right? Yeah. But for me, it's been very powerful to be able to understand that there are multiple components that are sometimes the cause of these things that we think are maybe caused by one or two things or certain issues. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. ChatGPT, come on.
Yeah,
it's doing its thing.
Yeah.
So what was the shift for you then from going through those, using substances to mask what was going on, to then taking responsibility and having that shift?
I've always had this passion since I was like 15 for wanting to be a better version. So I had these really sort of contrasting lines in my life. There's one which is complete physical and emotional destruction using drugs and alcohol. And then there was this other one of wanting to understand how I can be the best, and having a fascination with psychology and all the subjects that surround it. So, I was doing Tony Robbins tapes and audios, walking around the woods, tapping your fingers and doing all the wonderful things that those tapes, I'm sure a lot of people listen to.
All I need is video now.
Yeah, I look back and think, okay, knowing what I know now, I think, okay. But you got to start somewhere. And that was the gateway for me, for sure, in that world. So I'd say I've had these really interesting sort of two lives almost running in parallel. And I know full well that if I hadn't had that interest in psychology, I wouldn't be here today. 100%. I know that. And when I look at people that struggle with addiction who don't have that interest of being better or just an interest in psychology or anything along those lines, those typically are the people that struggle the most with addictions, or are still in it, or have died, or are still struggling. So I'm very grateful, and I don't really know where that came from. Don't really need to know, but I had that fascination from a young age, and I'm one of those sort of people, maybe like you, and maybe like a few of your guests are as well, that when I get into something, I dive deep, just like my addictions. I don't half-ass stuff. I get right in there. So I've spent about £250,000 over the years. It's probably a bit more than that now, on tech, on seminars, on trainings, on books, and all these things to discover and try and understand, like, why was I repeatedly not getting the results that I wanted for many years, like 12 years in total. And that was really what put me on the path to doing hypnotherapy and doing a load of other different modalities, because it was all about trying to fix me first. And then it became pretty apparent that the rest of the world needs help as well. We're all humans. We all got versions of our own problems, right? So yeah, once I figured out stuff for me, then I would help other people, figure out their stuff as well. So that was really how it sort of came about.
Fascinating. Yeah. So £250,000 into sort of self-development, learning. Yeah.
And do you know what's interesting about that though? If I look back, I think 90% of it was a waste of time.
Interesting. What would be the do's and the don'ts for you?
Hypnosis for me, I'm obviously biased because that's the modality that works well for me and works well for my clients. But that's a game changer. Done well, and there's a lot of hypnotists out there that I see online, and I'm thinking, okay, they're not quite hitting the mark there. They look good on Instagram, but they maybe don't know exactly what they're doing. So it's done right. It's very, very powerful. There are other tools I use, like parts therapy, which IFS I think is a very similar thing that some people know. Timeline, I use my own version of that. I've sort of molded something a bit different to how the traditional way of teaching is. But those tools are very, very powerful. There's no doubt whatsoever. If you've got any internal issues, which we all have, going to see someone who's good with those tools can be life-changing. And very quickly, one session can move the needle very, very powerfully. So those have been great. A lot of the biohacking stuff is a waste of time. Truthfully, there's a lot of people selling with good intentions, selling stuff out there. There's a lot of people with not so good intentions selling stuff out there. And the supplement world is one of those really difficult things to navigate because, your mate tells you he's taken this stack and it's done wonders for them. And no one really applies intelligence to it as much as you can. It's never, blood testing and DNA testing and actually putting some intelligence behind that. That definitely works. And working with practitioners and doctors who actually know what they're doing, you can get some great results from that side of stuff. There are a few choice bits of tech that I like that are great. Ice baths done well, great. Red light done well, it's good. There's saunas, all these sorts of things. When you really break down most things in life, especially when it comes to like body transformation and weight loss, it's usually the old stuff is the best. The stuff that's tried and tested, But yeah, there's a few bits and bobs that I like to use these days. I have a flashing light that can put you into a trance-like state almost instantly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool, huh? So there's a few bits, but I would say the caveat and the warning with anything in that world is just look at the people who are selling stuff, where their interest is vested, i.e., are they selling stuff because they're going to make money off the back of it? Or are you listening to a podcast with someone who truly cares and is a researcher rather than a marketer? And you need to sort of navigate that quite carefully, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And so with hypnosis, I'm so curious to sort of dive down that, to just pick your brains about hypnosis. So yeah, what is it on a basic level? And then we can dive into how it all works and
So, I mean, hypnosis is something that we do to ourselves every day, all day. So we're in and out of trance states. A trance state effectively is a state where you will notice trance states when you're sometimes in the gym, maybe working out, and your mind's sort of focusing heavily on the movements of the exercise, and sort of you are in that sort of very focused state. So we're in and out of different trance states all the time. As a hypnotist, as a hypnotherapist, my job is to better put you into effectively a theta brainwave state. I use alpha as well, but theta is the one where you can get access to the subconscious. And all it is really a fancy term for getting into a relaxed state. So when we did that breath work before we started this conversation, taking some deep breaths, closing your eyes, you're taking away the external, i.e. the things you can see, and you are going more internal, right? And you're getting your nervous system into a relaxed state. That's my job, ultimately, is to be able to help you get there, because the information that I want, or you want me to put into your brain, is guarded by our analytical mind, right? So that brain, that part of our mind that's trying to work stuff out and figure it out, that is the sort of gatekeeper to the subconscious, if you like. So the reason I like the flashing light technology is because it bypasses that very, very quickly. It gets you into a theta brainwave state or alpha or whatever program you decide to try. It gets you into that state. So then you can start to put information into your brain, right? And then from that, simply our behaviors are a set of programs that we have been conditioned to over time. Those programs primarily, as you know, come from our parents, our peers, our education, the media, Instagram, all these things that make up our life. And the challenge with being young now is that you have Instagram put in your hand at like 5 or 6 years old in some cases, right? So you don't stand a chance, frankly. But once you have that core bit of programming in your mind, and that typically comes from you have an experience, you attach a meaning to that experience, and then you carry that meaning around with you for the rest of your life. So I work with people all the time, and online I work with people, and they are carrying stuff around sort of unknowingly, sometimes it's a blind spot, since they were 7 years old. They're 37 or whatever age they are now, And for 30 years, they've been carrying around this thing with them unknowingly. And it affects everything they do. It affects the internal dialogue that they have, the internal narrative that they have in their head. It affects how they talk to people. Body language is a big thing, right? If you're open up and your chin's up and you're positive and you're confident, that is primarily driven from your past programming, right? So it's fascinating to me to see that you can see direct correlations from your upbringing, your past. And you can also obviously have traumatic moments and experiences that you label with certain meanings when you're older. But those formative years from 0 to 7, 0 to 8, around there are the ones that have the biggest impact on us, because our brain is primarily, not all, but primarily in a theta brainwave state. It's much more receptive, right? It's designed that way because as a kid, you want to be like a sponge and take as much information in to this new world that you're trying to figure out. So my job ultimately is to be able to show clients, this is where this came from. So the reason you behave like this in the present is because when you were 6, you made this meaning because your mum said this, or your mum did that, or your dad, or whatever the situation was. You've carried that along and it shaped your world. So you see through the lens of your belief system. And if our belief system is, oh, money's really difficult to get, then you're likely to have a difficult relationship with money. Or if you think, oh, all men are bastards in relationships, then your brain is always searching. It's like a little radar in there. It's searching for evidence to prove that's right. So if your belief system is men are all bastards in relationships and they always cheat on me or whatever it is, then that's why people consistently have those types of relationships or those types of experiences going forward. So once you understand where it's come from, you can then let go of that using parts therapy, timeline therapy. There's a whole host of other things that are great. Get rid of that stuff and then say, right, what do you want to create from new? Because that's the fun part, right? Because the stuff you leave behind, it's like, now let's think about what you really want to create, because creating a vision is very important, right? Having goals and ideas where you want to go, I think, is one of the most important things. And for a lot of people that struggle with depression, actually a lot of the time you figure out they don't actually know what their direction is in life. And if you gave them a purpose, their depression would sort of disappear overnight in some cases. So the problem is, if you're trying to create a vision from a limited past, you're only ever going to create a limited future that's connected to that experience of the past. So if you get rid of that, which is easy to do, and then start from fresh, and this is why I love working with entrepreneurs and 6-7-figure entrepreneurs only, because typically they're very clear on where they want to go. And when we get rid of this past stuff and they start to see, oh, I actually can create things completely differently, that opens up a whole new world, right? And then they have the ability to usually affect many, many people, because their businesses usually have a positive impact on the world. So and then the hypnosis component of it is about installing that new programming. So you can then put anything you want in your head. So I listen to my own audios every day, and I'm constantly thinking about, where am I going? We just launched the new business, Bali Connect, as you know. So it's like, right, who do I need to be? What are the traits I need to install? What are the things that, who am I going to need to turn up as a person over the next 3 to 6 months, depending on what our goals are, to deliver that at the level that we want to deliver it to. And then I will install those characteristics and those traits into my head.
That's awesome. So yeah, for you, like the difference between, so like, it's really powerful stuff, really powerful stuff. It's like deprogramming yourself, first of all, from the stuff that's holding you back, and then deciding, right, what program do I need to install like a computer to take my life to a new level.
I mean, that's it, right? It's an operating system.
Yeah.
It's no different to your phone. You have an update on your iPhone or your Android or whatever, and it says, oh, update, and then it has like a little list of like things, fixing bugs and giving the ability to do this, that, and the other. It's no different. We're no different. We go about it in a different way, but it's the same thing in principle.
This isn't implied to what you do at all, because I know you do incredible work with 6-7 figures entrepreneurs and help them shift and move through. But like, say in the mass media, how are they using hypnosis in a way that's programming people for
for
not
sure.
so empowering stuff?
Well, I think so. Again, if you look at trance states, have a look at someone. Next time you look at someone who's scrolling on Instagram, tell me if they're in a trance state or not. Right? You know what it's like when they're looking at their phone. We've all done it. We all do it, right?
For sure,
flicking through, the whole world around you disappears. Like, stuff could be happening all around you and you wouldn't know, because you are just in that focused trance-like state looking through. So when you're in that trance-like state, you know that whatever you're looking at and receiving and hearing and experiencing is going to go into your mind much quicker, right? So they know that, they use that, they're smart, they spent billions of dollars a year on making that work better, right? All these tech companies know that. Another good example of this is late night adverts. So like when you're sat in front of a TV, and I don't watch adverts, I'm very careful about that. But when you're sitting in front of a TV late at night, for example, like a lot of people do in this world, and you're in a trance state, you look at people who are 6, 7 o'clock in the evening before bed, sitting there probably munching on some snacks, some high carbohydrate snacks and sugary drinks, and maybe drinking alcohol or whatever. They're in a trance state. So when that advert comes on that suggests that they should be buying this, that, or the other, or the, this important thing politically is the right, way to do it, or whatever, that stuff goes into your brain way, way quicker. They're doing my job, but in a different way.
Yeah, and it's so smart. It's like the news. It's like, right, what are the 2 times in the day where the brain waves are the most susceptible? All right, the morning and the evening. All right, what time should we put the news on? Morning and evening.
Yeah, for sure. So but knowing that is great because you can be mindful of that and you can be aware, okay, well, actually, I can put myself into trance states. People think you need a hypnotherapist to do that. A hypnotherapist will help you speed up the process. And if you don't know how to do it fully, then of course that will be a very useful, use for your time. But you can start to see, actually, do you know what? I'm in and out of trance states all day. Like driving a car is a really good example. Everyone's driven a car, down a motorway or a highway, and you would have driven a car and 5 junctions would have gone past, 10 minutes of time's gone past. And then you almost come back to consciousness. And you don't really recall the last 10 miles of a journey, right? Well, your subconscious has firstly allowed you to drive the car without crashing. It's steered, done the steering on the steering wheel. It's changed the gas, the accelerator, the brake. It's constantly looking out for objects and issues around you. That's a trance state. So you're in and out of them all the time, right? So hypnosis is just utilizing those trance states and then putting something positive into that mix rather than putting something negative into that.
That's awesome. Yeah, like how I personally use that, even just like outside of actually getting a hypnosis session. It's like in the morning, in the evening, when I found out that information that I was most susceptible at that time.
Yep.
That's just when I'd start to do my meditations, or when there were certain things that I wanted to plant in.
100%.
Even like Tony Robbins talks about the incantations, like where just planting beliefs in. I'll just like read them then, or like speak them out loud, and then do the same in the evening.
Yep.
And it's amazing how fast you can actually get some stuff in there.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Yep. You can hijack those moments, right? And another good one is sort of afternoon times where a lot of people have that slump.
Nice.
Perfect. People think, oh, it's awful. No, hijack that. Use that stuff. It's great. Like you're in that sleepy afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock slump, whatever it is. I mean, there's other conversations whether you should have that slump, and that's a different conversation entirely. But if you do, perfect time to listen to a health hypnosis audio. I mean, I genuinely think that everyone should be listening to audios every day. You can buy them off the shelf and they have their purpose. You can get custom stuff from me, specifically designed for you to what you're working through, which is going to be much more powerful. But, hypnosisdownloads.com. Just go on there and buy some, have a look through and see the thing that you want to deal with, work on that and listen to it for 30 days and come back to me and tell me they haven't changed at all. I promise you will have, and I think we are also unaware of how important our internal narrative is. Like that's the number one. You can change your internal narrative whenever you decide to. It becomes more challenging when you've had a very traumatic past and you're carrying around that stuff, which is why letting go of that stuff is really helpful. But your internal narrative is like, it's everything. Like my internal narrative now is immaculate. If I look at it compared to how it used to be, it's universes apart. And that's not down to me having any special skill. That's just practicing what I preach, practicing what I teach with clients, and creating audios, but also having tools to be able to interrogate that. Oftentimes, I remember a friend of mine a long time ago said, I can't help how I feel. And it stuck with me for a long time. It's like, well, you're always going to be at the mercy of your thoughts then, your feelings. We don't often have, and there's a big conversation about where thoughts and feelings come from, right? That's probably a very different conversation for another time, but maybe we don't have a control of what comes up, but what we do have control is of how we respond to that. We always have the ability to change our response to any internal conversation or emotion. And there are two things that I can do, which when something comes into my head, a narrative that I don't think is particularly empowering or helpful, I can either tell it to piss off, and I will either verbalize that internally or externally, depending if I'm on my own or not. And then the other one is to use humor, right? I can sort of look at that internal narrative and just laugh at it. And that's where meditation comes in. It's helpful because it gives you that ability to detach yourself from it, because you're not your thoughts and your feelings. They are an experience, but we often get so emotionally connected and attached to that it becomes, the lines become blurred, and we feel like that's all part of us and we're one with it. But actually, when we can look at a thought from a distance, we can say, okay, well, I'm not that thought, I'm not that emotion, I'm not that feeling, so I don't have to run with that. Now, the caveat to that is feeling things in your body is a really interesting thing. So you're probably aware of this, but so a lot of times you'll, with an emotional experience, and maybe some of a challenge, you're going through a pattern you're going through that's cycling over and over, you can attach and feel a physical experience in your body. Like, for example, when someone say, oh, I feel anxious, they usually have a tightness in their chest, for example. Well, actually, if that's a recurring pattern that's been happening for decades or years or a long time, you can actually go into that experience of that tightness, close your eyes, like we did at the beginning of this conversation, close your eyes and actually feel into that. And I'll guide clients through this. And you can do that yourself if you're listening to this. You guide yourself into it and just feel that experience. What does that feel like? Is there a physical sensation to it? Is there a shape to it? Sometimes the mind will bring up all sorts of wonderful things. Sometimes there's a sound to it. Sometimes there's a texture. And you can really start to go into that. And then from that, you can connect to an experience that happened in your past, which I find fascinating, right? You can, people have an idea about how like the body holds on to these emotions and these experiences. And I don't think people truly know, including myself, how that actually works from a biological perspective. But I am very clear that I can take a client who's had a problem and take that physical experience, and we can in an instant go back to a 6 or 7 year old time in their life, whatever the age it is, and we can go through that experience together. And the beautiful thing about experiences is that our mind doesn't know the difference between what's happening in reality right now versus when I close my eyes and imagine something. So we can go back to an event, create that event, and change it to however we want. We can make it fun. We can make it difficult. We can make it whatever, whatever you decide. And therefore, you leave that in the past and you no longer have to carry that emotional stuff and baggage with you. And then you can create something from new.
Such powerful work. Yeah, such powerful work. I actually had an experience after the podcast the other day, based on this, where you're sharing like the past experience and the emotions that's attached to it, and you can go back and relive it. Mm-hmm. So after one of the podcasts last week, I had like a bit of it was on my throat. I could just feel like it was a bit constricted, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I could notice it during the podcast. And then afterwards, when I was driving home on the bike, sun was shining, like ground was all cobbled, and I was like bumping along. And suddenly I found this same constriction in my throat. It's like, it's so interesting. And then like suddenly a memory popped up as I was driving. And I went back to when I was in school. Mm-hmm. And I went like bright red, like a beetroot. I couldn't get my words out when I was speaking. And I had this big like experience when it was kind of like I was on this bike, but it was like time had just morphed. Mm-hmm. And I was experiencing this time at the same time as being on my scooter driving along. And then I had a moment where I was like being able to communicate with that younger Sam and being like almost laughing at myself because I was like, hey bro, you're going to be fine. Yeah. Look at you, mate. Like you're in a studio, you're doing a talk, like you're going to be fine. Yeah. And then it was a real, like I even now kind of get like a bit of shivers, because it's such a powerful experience, but it just showed for me exactly what you shared there with 100% experience, emotion, bang, and then you can just go and relive it.
I mean, I wouldn't advise doing it while you're riding a bike personally, but obviously that's the experience that came up for you.
Yeah, I mean, it actually just kind of like, it kind of all happened like that. Yeah. Like it wasn't a planned thing.
Yeah, don't use heavy machinery when you're doing these sorts of things typically, but yeah, I love that. Yeah. But it's funny, isn't it? Because it's so interesting how it's just made up. It's all made up. It's just meaning we've applied to things, because nothing is inherently good or bad until we label something. right? And society obviously gives us guidelines around what should and shouldn't be good or bad, right? But I just find it fascinating that we are never given these tools. No one teaches us this stuff. At school, we're never taught that any of this stuff really. But yet it's the most fundamental stuff. I mean, we've all met adults that are 70 years old who are still carrying this stuff around with them because they don't know any better. And it's not their fault. And it just seems to me, what amazes me as well is I can use my voice and my words to change people's minds, to change people's internal narrative for the good. And it's just my words and my voice that allows people to change. And combining that with just visualizing something like you did. And that's a big part, like a big part of Timeline is going back to that 5-year-old version of you and just saying, dude, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. And it's amazing how then the body and the mind just goes, oh, okay. And then let's go of that. And then you start to, I don't know how you were after that experience. You're probably quite happy for a period of time, probably noticed some differences, did you? Or
yeah, as in actually afterwards it was I kind of had a bit of a release, like a sort of bit of an experience, because it was quite moving for me personally. Like it was a big thing because I kind of saw myself and then relived it and then had that moment where I was like, it's going to be okay, and it all was happening at once. So it was actually quite an emotional experience. And then once that released, I felt freer to express.
100%. 100%. Yeah, because you're blocked here. You can call it the throat chakra or whatever label you want to give it, and everyone has a different version of that. If you're blocked there, then of course that's going to be difficult for you to speak, right? And so I love that, man. And the fact that you managed to do that on your own on a bike in Bali, riding around on some of the most dangerous roads in the world is just a credit to you.
Yeah. Just for the listeners, that's probably not smart, but if someone, you never know when.
No, I've never had that personally, but you never know, clearly.
Nice. Yeah. So how else can the listener use hypnosis to enhance their life?
I think just go to hypnosisdownloads.com. It's where I first started when I got audios. I'm actually creating a YouTube channel at some point when it becomes a priority, where I'm going to put free audios up there for people to listen to.
Awesome.
Specifically designed for entrepreneurs because that's my niche, obviously, but they still apply to every human being on the planet. So I would say go to hypnosisdownloads.com. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I just like them. They're great. They've got some great Scottish guys doing some great stuff. So go there, have a little look through. They're so cheap, like 25 quid for a pack of 3 usually, something along those lines. Go and have a look, download some and just commit to listening to them once a day for 30 days. And just see what happens. It's the easiest way.
Yeah. So meditation's hypnosis. Like what would be the difference for you between the two? Because the way where I'm currently at is like meditation, you are just kind of like getting yourself down into those like lower brainwave states. So you're more susceptible. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, you can utilize it for sure. And ultimately you could combine the two, i.e. get yourself into those lower brainwave states, as you say, more relaxed state. And then you're going to be able to, utilize or allow a subconscious mind to open up more freely. I mean, any good hypnosis script will allow you to get into that state. They use things called deepeners, which you've probably heard before, like can count from 10 to 1, etc. One thing I would say is make sure you download and listen to audios that you like the voice of. There are some, I'm not going to mention names, but you know how some people's voices really grate you? Sometimes it's a different nationality or it's just a certain type of voice. If you're listening to some hypnosis voice, including my own, and you don't like it, don't listen to that stuff because your brain's going to be sitting there going, oh, I hate the way he says that. And it's gonna,
just doesn't let you in.
Right. It's going to ruin the conversation. So that's one thing I will say. But meditation has different qualities to it as well, right? Because meditation gives you the ability to detach from that emotion. Like we said earlier, you can see thoughts almost like clouds, sort of, you can detach yourself from them, right? So I think meditation, not only do we know from a lot of studies that it changes the physical shape of our brain and the neurons and connections and things like that, but also it allows us to detach. And where I see that powerful in with what I do is when you have that internal narrative saying all sorts of wonderful negative things about you, the meditation gives you that skill set, a toolkit to be able to go, and see it and have this pause before you respond. Because there's a difference between reacting and responding to something, right? reacting usually implies is an emotional sort of reaction, a charge to it, whereas response is a considered pause, looking at, evaluating it, and then responding powerfully. So I think for me, meditation really is very good for that side of things as well. But you can absolutely blend the two. I mean, hypnosis and meditation are one and the same in effect. The challenge with meditation for a lot of people, including myself, is you often spend the first 10, 15 minutes trying to get into meditation, which is sort of counterproductive, but you get my point. The mind is very busy and trying to, whir around the thoughts of the day. So hypnosis with the right scripting, with deepeners and music and binaural beats, which I use for mine as well, and all these good things, can fast track that process. So it can allow you to get into that meditative state much quicker. And I know that there are 1,000 different ways of meditating these days for some reason. And there's the classic, no music, just close your eyes. You even have open eyes meditation. And I know sort of a lot of people say that it's all about doing that sort of the classic way of doing things. But I just think just do what works. Ultimately, if you want to listen to music and have binaural beats and have someone talking to you and getting into a relaxed state, then go with that, right? And also there are benefits from just allowing your nervous system to relax. Our central nervous system gets in that fight or flight all the time these days. Like a lot of people struggle with being, and entrepreneurs especially, always on, always thinking, always rushing from one thing to the next and not taking enough time to simmer the nervous system and calm it down. So both meditation and hypnosis can help with that too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that as an entrepreneur, for sure, it's challenging in that sense. Whereas some of the work I'm doing at the moment actually is with the nervous system and the different states. So it's like the guy I'm working with is like it's the green being the connected, at peace, like calm, connected. And then you've got like the yellow, which is more activated in like the fight, flight response. And then the red in like a shutdown response. And then just getting used to like, all right, I'm in a yellow at the minute. I'm a bit activated. All right, I need to get more connected. Bring yourself back. And kind of just bringing that awareness throughout the day.
Yeah, I love that.
Of like, like a certain task that you're doing. All right, actually, this is a bit triggered. Like it's bringing me into a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Or like, I can feel like someone said this and I'm shutting down rather than communicating.
Yeah.
Just becoming aware of how your nervous system is actually reacting throughout the day. Yeah, it's
having that awareness is great. Very, very powerful for sure. I like that system. It's good. It sounds good.
Yeah, it's big work. Yeah, it's nice. And you can use it with other people too, like in conversation. It's like, where are other people at the minute? Like what states are they in? Because we act so different in different states, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, what beliefs would you, so I went out a bit of a tangent. What beliefs would you would you recommend planting? I know this is a generic, but say someone is an entrepreneur, yet they're an entrepreneur that wants to make a ton of money and have success, yet also feel connected and have thriving relationships rather than just be one-dimensional. What beliefs would you be planting in through hypnosis?
So it would be a case-by-case basis. And I think it would depend entirely on what they were trying to achieve. But to touch on what you've just said, I think one of the biggest things for me is certainty. That's a huge one. If you can just wake up with certainty, like my inner narrative now is just like, yeah, of course it will happen. Whatever I put my mind to, as long as I put the right people around me who are usually smarter than me and better at certain things, and I, apply the right types of actions, I can do whatever I want to achieve. I really can. And I believe that wholeheartedly to my core. So I think having that level of certainty is really powerful. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, right? And that's a rare commodity these days. You have fake confidence, you have fake certainty, and you can see it in people a lot of time, but having certainty is critical. But I would say the foundation for all of this is our self-worth. We're only ever going to achieve to the level that we love ourselves. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and I believe that we are a reflection. Our world is a reflection of who we are. And think about that for a second. Our world is a reflection of who we are. So our world is a mirror. We are a mirror, effectively, two ways. of the world. So if we are deeply unhappy and insecure and lonely inside, then that is the experience of life that we're going to have. So we need to, if we want to raise up our self-worth, number one. So that belief, and that you can definitely put hypnosis on and elevate that for sure. But I would argue that you still need to do that work from the past to truly get the most, your biggest bang for buck for it. Because primarily that stuff comes from, our childhood. So it depends really what you're trying to achieve. But, I have audios called like Midas Touch and God Mode and stuff like that. If you want to switch on and you're in a case where you're a 6 or 7 figures business owner and you're in a sprint, you've got 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, a quarter, that you are aiming for a really big goal, then you can just put your mind into like super focus. So like hyper discipline, non-distracting, just all the things that you need to go out and get that objective done. The challenge with that though is that we can only run at 1,000 miles an hour for so long. So you need to be mindful of the strategy that you're employing, and how long you're going to employ it for, right? So it's not a direct answer to your question, it's sort of a roundabout answer, but it just depends what you're trying to achieve. But I would say the first thing for all of us, all human beings, is get that self-worth, that self-belief, that self-love foundation dialed in first, and then build on that powerfully.
That's awesome. And from that foundation, that filters out into all areas of life as well as our success. 100%. Yeah, because have you found, it's a bit of a loaded question, but have you found with working with 6-7 figure entrepreneurs that one of the challenges is maybe they've created a ton of success, and then other areas of their life maybe aren't at that same level?
Yeah, I think that's the game, right? Is to be able to have the money, have the success, whatever that looks like for you, but have relationships that are meaningful, both romantic and social, right? And then have your health, obviously, both physically and mentally and spiritually, depending on what you believe. So I think for me, that's the game. Is how can I win at all of it? And look, please don't think for a second that I think I have won at all of it at all. Like my last relationship ended fairly recently. So clearly I've got some work around that stuff to do, and I've learned a huge amount of lessons through that. So I think it's very easy to focus on the money, especially as entrepreneurs, or the mission, or the vision, or the purpose, and get stuck into that. And we will go through seasons in life, don't we? There are times where we need to dedicate more time to X and more time to Y. But and I don't know if balance is ever the right word. It's always a bit of a strange one for me. I don't think you're ever truly in balance. I think you're rocking from one thing to another, depending on where, what you're trying to achieve. But I think if you neglect, like for example, if you neglect your health, I know plenty of people who are hyper successful financially, but their body has been neglected and they're very overweight and ill and, have major problems. So there does need to be a strategy in play that allows you to put enough energy and time into all of those aspects. And I think Bali is interesting because actually the types of entrepreneurs that I deal with are much more clued up in that way, which is great. They are actually interested in getting a good night's sleep. They're not interested in working until 4 o'clock in the morning just to get more done. They are interested in having relationships. Doesn't mean everyone's got their stuff sorted. We've all got our things, obviously, but for some reason, Bali does attract, or maybe I attract, the entrepreneurs who are interested in having that full rounded approach. And part of what I would do with clients as well is have a doctor look at their bloods and genetics and things like that, and create when needed supplement stacks or routines that are designed specifically for them, for their biology, because I think that's important too. We can overlook that side of stuff. And let's be frank, the modern world is not set up well for us to thrive. We've got pollution, cars and bikes everywhere. We've got sunlight, especially here in Bali. The UV index is pretty intense here, so you've got to be a little bit careful with that. Water quality might not be as good as you'd like it to be. So the environment that we live in the modern world isn't exactly, sorted for us to thrive. So I think we have to take things to another level if we want to operate at a high level.
Yeah, that sort of flows well into the Bali Connect side of things. When you're speaking about relationships and working with entrepreneurs, one of your qualities, we recently went to your launch party, is getting the right people in the right room together, networking.
Yeah.
So first of all, we'll touch on how is networking done poorly, like badly.
Okay.
And then we'll go into.
I could talk to that.
Yeah, and then we'll go into how to actually network in a
Sure.
good way. But yeah, how's networking done in a
I think
way?
we've all been to, a lot of people have been to networking events, and it oftentimes feels like you're rolling the dice with regards to who's actually going to be there. And especially in a business world, the cardinal sin for me owning a business that is a business club / network effectively, my cardinal sin is to waste entrepreneurial time. If I tell you you're going to go to an event of mine and there are going to be 50 elite entrepreneurs who are doing 100K plus or whatever the thing is, and you turn up and there are 50 people that have just started in entrepreneurship, I've wasted your time. And that's not cool, right? So I think a big part of the problem with networking is there is not enough time and energy put into really understanding, firstly, who's in the room, vetting those people, because a lot of people will pretend to be what they're not. It doesn't matter whether it's Bali or anywhere else in the world. The entrepreneurial world attracts a lot of people who are trying to make it. And look, I'm no disrespect to them. Like, we all started somewhere. I remember when I first started in business, I was awful. So I've been on a big learning curve too, right? And it's a process. But what you've got to understand is the value added to people is very specific. So the value that you add to someone who's just started in business versus a 7-figure entrepreneur is vastly different. The questions and challenges that those two people have are definitely very different. So I think there's never enough thought to who's in the room. And oftentimes ego is too much involved with trying to look, we've got 100 people in the room. So what? If 100 people go into the room and you've advertised that they're all great entrepreneurs and then only 2% of them are, that's not cool in my book, because you wasted my time. So I think that's one of the key components. And Instagram is very good at making things look great, making reels and little shorts and stuff that look like everyone's having a great time and, loads of stuff's going on. But the reality is, it's not what it says it is, right? And I've experienced some of that stuff, which we don't need to get into. And I'm sure everyone has experienced that sort of stuff, where you're told that it's going to be certain things and you turn up and it's not, it's something quite different. So for me, that's what created this gap in the market. And I've spent 12 months asking hundreds of entrepreneurs in Canggu specifically, what are your challenges? Like, what are the things that you really struggle with? And I'm talking entrepreneurs that are doing 6-7-figure businesses, and can prove that, right? I've asked them, what are the challenges? And a lot of the challenges for them is, I find it really difficult to meet people at my level or above. And not because they're snobs and they don't want to hang around with some people, but they want to learn from people that are either at their level or have done better than them or doing better than them, right? So that was the number one thing. There's also this lonely component. Being an entrepreneur, stuck behind a keyboard or managing teams, or, it can be pretty lonely. You don't always get the ability to share the stuff that's not working or is being difficult for you, because you're stuck behind in a small room sometimes, or an office, or at your villa building this business. And I think we underestimate the need for people to be able to share with fellow entrepreneurs who are having the same struggles, so they can relate and they can offload, and then they can share ideas and give them support. So that's another piece of it. But the key component, which is what Bali Connect, or BC as we call it, stands on, is knowing who's in the room, right? So when you become a member, and we're just about to roll out the membership, as you know, this week, when you become a member, everyone is firstly vetted. So I know that you are doing what you say you're going to do, right? I'm going to see information like your P&L or some screenshots of your last month's earnings, those sorts of things, enough to qualify and give credibility to what you're saying is true, right? So when you turn up to an event and you become a member and you turn up to one of our events, the people in the room have been personally sat down with me one-to-one. I've got to know them over a period of time, and we've looked through the due diligence and we've done our work. So when you come into the membership, you get a private profile so you can see who all the members are. And when you come to that event, we've actually put some intelligence behind it to say, hey, do you know what, Sam, you would be great meeting Tom. Tom is doing this. I remember sitting down with you and having your onboarding process. You talk through the bottlenecks in your business and the challenges you have are X, Y, and Z. So I know that Tom has been through the same things and has got some great solutions for you. If not, he can either provide those solutions or maybe put someone else in the network that can help you with that. Let's put you two together. So when you come to an event, it's not that awkward 20 minutes like, oh, who do I talk to? And there's that weird, like, grab a drink from the bar and sort of walk around and, or sat at a dinner, sat to next people you don't know and you have no real understanding of who they are. And it takes a while to figure out that none of these people are connected to you or just not on the same journey, right? None of that exists in BC. When you turn up, it's already pre-planned for you to be able to help you integrate really quickly. And again, not to waste entrepreneurial time. I mean, to give you an indication, off the back of the launch party, and I won't mention names, but it's fine. People who know me know. But off the back of the launch party, nearly 40 grand's worth of business was done for one person because we put him in the right room with the right people. And that was just a launch party. That wasn't even us orchestrating the profiles and onboarding everyone and really hand selecting people. I'd spent 12 months obviously asking all the questions and I really carefully selected the 50 to 60 people that came to that event that night. But it's just a demonstration. When you put the right people in the right rooms, and the qualification for BC is very simple. You need to be doing 10 grand a month minimum. You need to be in Bali at least 6 months of the year, ideally looking to stay longer term, because that was another piece of feedback. Bali is very transient, especially with the entrepreneurial communities. They come in and out. So connecting to a network of people that are here either 6 months of the year, which like a lot of them are, or longer term, been here for a few years. So connecting those together, and then checking the validity of what they're saying is true with their business and their experience, which is absolutely mandatory. But also, they're just a decent human being. They're not interested in flexing Rolexes on every Instagram reel. They're not interested in like standing next to a Ferrari they don't own or sitting in a Porsche they don't own because it's on their mother's driveway and they're taking pictures and shit, which happens all the time, right? They are genuine human beings that want connection and they are doing what they say they're going to do. And a lot of them have been jaded by the networking experience for a number of different reasons, like we've just discussed. Provide those guys and girls with an environment that is conducive at doing business in a relaxed space that's had some intelligence. I genuinely think it's going to change the landscape for entrepreneurs here in Bali, in Canggu specifically. I love Canggu unbiased because there's more people here and it's my energy and my vibe. Doesn't mean if you're in Ulu or Ubud and you want to get involved, you can't. Obviously, that's fine. But yeah, it's going to be a game changer. I'm super excited. It feels like my entire life's work has sort of come to this point of being able to help people connect. I love this. I love having real conversations with real people. That's my number one. And then I love bringing people together and allowing them to have conversations with each other and then creating ideas that weren't going to be possible on their own. Like the masterminds that we will run and the events that we will do bring people together and in a really structured way, allow people to unpack what's really going on for them physically, mentally, and from a business perspective. And then put a practical plan in place and hold them accountable if they need that to move forward and just create the next quantum leap in their business.
Yeah, so powerful. Especially each part of that, the vetting process is so important because
it's critical.
Yeah, I think all of us entrepreneurs have been told that you're going to go to some event and then you're going to meet all these dream people and you get there, you're like, hang on.
I'm doing better than these people, like financially.
Or someone who's like, yeah, bro, I'm like making this amount of money. And then like suddenly down the line, you realize actually they weren't. And it was all just like a facade.
Yeah.
Which happens so much.
It's
like everywhere. Yeah.
It's scary.
Everywhere.
Social media is the worst for it.
Yeah.
Like Instagram is just a joke for it. But,
so I think that vetting process is so essential to know that actually someone is not just saying they're doing something and putting on this facade, but actually like on paper, they actually have done what they said they would.
Yeah.
And then I love the concept of the fact that you're actually vetting someone when they come in and then linking them with people straight away, like making the actual networking process go from, all right, I need to go to this networking event and have like 20 conversations to, right, I'm going to go to this networking event and they've already linked me with the person.
You've got two conversations, but you're probably going to be more impactful than the 20 you ever had before. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And also we're looking to create and connect because we're all about doing business in Bali legally and properly. There's a lot of people in Bali that don't do business correctly, right? They don't have the right visas and all those sorts of things. So a big part of what we are doing is being able to help Bali, people who have moved to Bali or here who've got businesses understand where they stand legally, and getting businesses involved, getting Indonesians involved and helping them, give them consultations and understanding, right? How do you set up a company here? What are the vehicles that you need? What are the visas that you need to do this legally? How do you actually implement this and give money back to Indonesia? I started a PT PMA, a proper company here recently to go with this business, because I want to give back to this country, this Indonesia and Bali itself, because it's been so, it's my home. I'm always a guest, and I always respect being here and are grateful for that experience, So we want to be able to really help people do that side of it as well, integrate, pay their taxes here, give back to it. We're also going to be doing, which I know is a big part of what you guys do, is giving back to charities. We've got a lot of people with a lot of great, resources, time and money here. And we want to be able to donate not only proceedings that we take from events and memberships and things like that, but actually I was sitting down with a friend of mine yesterday and talking about the Bali Street Mums and the charity that they're, people that are helping them. And I think we should, as a duty to the country that we live in, help give back, not only be legal and do all the things by the book correctly here from a business perspective, but also give back to the people that are our hosts effectively. We're guests here. So that's a big piece of it as well that we're going to roll out, and there's loads of plans for that to partner up with a lot of different charities. And I know there's a ton out there. So if you're listening to this, do get in contact. But we're already out there, sort of speaking to a lot of people. So I think that's a big piece of it as well, is getting people equipped in that way.
Yeah, bro, that's awesome. Yeah, because it's such a blessing that we're here on this little island. Like, I'm in and out, right? So, I'll be gone from here soon, unfortunately, and then back again later in the year. But it's like such a blessing that we're here and that we're welcomed onto this island. And, there's a certain energy about it, and it attracts a certain, type of person. And it's incredible, the locals and the way they run it. And to give back is, I think, so essential. Of an island that gives so much. Yeah. It's like, hey, what can we actually give back to?
100%.
Yeah, so I love that that's a part of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I think anyone here who's got a business that isn't giving back should have a deep think to themselves. I really do. There's a lot of great charities out here. And the thing is, it's not always about giving money, right? A lot of charities have the best will, but they may not be good at social media. They may not be good at business, and charities are business. Well, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, right? They need to generate cash. They need to be able to put projects in, they need strategy, et cetera, all these sorts of things. So what you find with a lot of charities all over the world, for that matter, is that they have a huge heart and they really want to help, but they don't have the skill set, right? Certain skill sets that are going to help them promote and get out there. So, you don't necessarily have to give money as a resource. If you've got a team of people that are really great at social or connecting or just any form of marketing, getting the word out there, then that could be a very powerful use of your time to be able to help those charities in that way, rather than just donating cash.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, like we founded the Paduli Learning Center, so the school here. And it's like, for when people go in, and say they've got like even just for their following, maybe it's a small following or a big following, but like that's helpful in itself, like to go into the school and then like to take videos and post it on socials, and then suddenly like exposure starts to come. Like I feel like for a charity, even that in itself is 100%. Like is a gift, it's a 100%. Blessing. And
shout out to our man Deddy.
Yeah, what a guy, man. What a guy, bro. Yeah, I mean,
he's my favorite Indonesian right now.
Mate, he's great. Unbelievable. He was like the first episode on this show, actually.
Oh, really? Was he?
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
But now so Paduli is just unbelievable. Yeah. And he's, I mean, from a leadership perspective, how he runs that place.
Yeah, he's a dude.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. Like it runs like clockwork, and like the kids, like when you go in, like the energy in there, the kids just are lit up and they want to be there. They're learning, educating, and we always joke and say that the next prime minister is going to be quite
possibly
from Paduli.
Yeah. Love
so for someone who's not in Bali and has access to Bali Connect, what would you say how have you managed to create a network of people to get the right people in the right room, and how can someone duplicate that from wherever they are in the world?
Get curious. I jokingly say my job is I have my week's calendar is blocked out typically in 2-hour slots, and I have people come to my place and we just sit down and have coffee and we have conversations just like we are now and get to know people. I'm fairly strategic with it. to a degree. Sometimes I sort of meet random people at places and just sort of vibe with them and meet up. But get to know people, actually care. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way? I've sworn a couple of times.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It's fine.
Didn't check that at the beginning. I'm sorry.
Get the editing. Beep.
Yeah. Okay. But I think people pretend they care, but oftentimes they don't. And I think just actually giving a shit actually really goes a long way. So like getting curious about people and getting into their world and asking them questions and really listening and understanding what they what's going on in their world is powerful. I say I've had hundreds of conversations with entrepreneurs before I launched BC, because I could have launched it months ago, but I didn't feel I wanted to make sure that what I was offering was going to be valuable. And I think in business, and I've been guilty of this many, many times with many businesses I've had over the past, not asking people what they want, telling people what they need, which is a very different conversation. So a big part of BC is feeding back from our members. Like, what do you guys value? Because when it comes to a marketing perspective, putting out offers, doing events, doing whatever, that what you're delivering is fed back from the people that really need it. So I would say really get curious and take time with it. Don't try and rush it. You can send a type form out to 1,000 people and get responses. And we do use type forms occasionally, questionnaires effectively, but it never beats this. It never beats having a conversation with someone face to face, looking at their body language, reading them, getting to know them, understanding them, going a bit deeper than a type form will ever go. And I'm trying to just get curious about them. So I think that's number one. Start there, and do something you enjoy too. Don't do it because it's going to make you money. That's a byproduct. BC will make a great amount of money, and no doubt in my mind whatsoever, and it will afford a lovely lifestyle and help loads of people and charity and all that stuff. That's almost a byproduct of delivering something that is uniquely, well, not uniquely, but is very valuable to the people that it's going to serve. And I think we gloss over that quite a lot. So I always start there, and it takes work, man. I've had hundreds of conversations. Luckily, I enjoy it, right? Yeah. So it's fine. But having hundreds of conversations with people, it really drives. And also, that's how I built my network. I mean, did you come to Sunset Connect? I don't know if you ever did.
No, I didn't.
So I accidentally created the largest digital nomad meetup in Bali within like the first 3 months of arriving here. Just again, because I ran 2 little workshops, not making any money off them, just giving free information away to people, just like sort of similar to what I know. I think you do some of the things like that. And off the back of those 2, I'm always asking questions. I know that I don't have all the answers, and I know there are people out there way smarter than me. So I'm always humble enough just to go, okay, so how would you do it? What do you want? How would you like it to be? And the overwhelming feedback I got was like, these workshops are great and it's nice to meet people, but actually we want a place where we can meet people out of core hours. So on a weekend and have a social, drink a few beers with a few digital nomads. And then overnight, A1 Connection, shout out to E1, one of the owners there, he allowed us to use his space. And we had about 100 people consistently turning up every month to this place. And again, that was purely not because I'm magical or amazing at business, but it was just listening to what people wanted and then giving it to them. And it thrived. We ran for a few months and then the rainy season came and it was on the rooftop. So it sort of destroyed that slightly, but it was great. And it reminded me that it's all about really asking people what they want, and just getting really curious and caring, and really truly understanding what they need.
That's awesome. Yeah, like understanding deeply. Like, had you taken the time? So I think sometimes that can be like, is that a smart use of time to go and have like,
and it's not.
Conversations?
The thing is, if you look at like on paper, it doesn't stack up.
Yeah.
To have 100, 200 conversations, that are 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours long, like on paper from an entrepreneur just says that surely we can do that more efficiently. I'm like, yeah, you probably could. But I would argue you won't get the connection to the person that you have sat there. And I know with all the people I've sat down with, I have a much deeper connection out there now. So when I go out and I meet people and I say hello to people, there's already a level of connection there. So when I ask people, well, hey, do you want to get involved in this project? That sense of trust of who I am and that sort of credibility has already been built to a degree, right? And I think you doing that through social media, again, you can do it. Obviously, the people have big audiences and stuff. It's just not how I like to do it. I can't. The idea of deleting Instagram is something I think about daily. I just can't. I just hate that platform. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, but I noticed that with you straight from the off. Like when we first connected, and we had connected online, and we bumped into each other at the gym. You're like, "Oh, mate, come around for a coffee, and you can try out the hypnotherapy with the lights and stuff." Yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's wicked." And yeah, actually, to be invited around someone's house for a coffee, like it's a really nice gesture, you know. And then in that time, we obviously connected and chatted, and then you were curious, and we're like, "Oh, like what's going on for you?" So it's great. You go away and you feel like you've built an actual genuine relationship and connection.
100%.
And then sometimes something will come of that, and sometimes it won't. But you've still connected, right? Yeah. So I like the way you do that.
And I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. So I won't invite everyone, obviously.
It makes me feel very special.
You should, yeah. But no, you know what it's like. You get a feeling from people, don't you? And I'm not special at this by any stretch of imagination. Obviously, my work has given me a few more tools, maybe. But I think you just get to know. There's an intuitive understanding. And you see people on social, and and you sort of there are mutual connections, and you have conversations. Oh, I know Sam. I met him the other day. So, oh, Sam's amazing. And a few people say that. It's like, okay, cool. That validates what I already thought was true. So, I think your what's the word I'm looking for? Your reputation precedes you is always true, right? And there are people in Bali and beyond, anywhere in the world, that are fake, and there's lots of people like that. Especially on social media, they're trying to pretend there's something they're not because they're insecure. Usually, is what it normally comes down to. And people can put up a good front, and sometimes you can be blinded to that, but it always comes out. Especially in Canggu, man. Like everyone knows everyone. Eventually it will come out, and people will be like, "Oh no. Do you know what? I've had that experience with him, or I've had that experience with her, whatever it is." So I think I'm really, really conscious that our reputation precedes us. So the real people who are genuine, look, it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes.
For sure.
Humans make mistakes. The key thing about mistakes, though, is owning them, apologizing, and putting your hand up demonstrates to me the character of the human being. Because there are two things: stressful environments and how you respond to making mistakes demonstrate character every time, right? So, I think it was can't remember who said it, but it's like one of the really successful business owner who said it's almost a good thing to manufacture mistakes with clients and then show them that this is how you respond. Obviously, there's a slight ethics issue with that, in my opinion, but I think it was Gary Vee actually. But he's saying like how you fix problems demonstrates a huge amount of who you are, right? Because to think you're never going to make a mistake is dumb. Obviously, we always do. But to put your hand up and have the courage to say, I made a mistake. I want to resolve this. Let's sit down and work through this. That to me shows huge character. So I think that's a really important piece of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that, man. I actually needed to hear that today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You made a mistake?
Yeah. I made a mistake. Yeah, no, I have a lot going on at the minute. And then I was like, I said yes to too many things.
Yep.
I said yes to something. I won't go into loads of detail.
Sure.
But I said yes to something, and it's in like a month's time. And then I had the realization, I was like, look, I've said yes to too much stuff.
Yep.
And I actually need to focus on what I'm focusing on, create what I need to create. And I wasn't like, one of my processes for a decision is I want to be all in with the decision. Like I don't want to be like, oh, I'm not too sure. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I know I've done that so many times before and then it hasn't played out very well. It's not been a great experience for either party.
Yep.
So one of my decisions is like, one of the ways I make a decision is I want to be all in.
Yep.
Right, I'm all in, or I got to that place, I'm in.
Yep.
And I kind of had the realization I had said yes, but we hadn't like got to the point where we had fully like negotiated the deal and all that stuff. And then I was like, sent the message. I was like, this is where I'm at. I've decided it's a no because of X, Y, and Z. And I kind of got called out on integrity with it. And I accepted it. And I was like, do you know what? It's fair. I said yes.
Yep.
I made a fuck up. It was actually, I shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
I own it. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry, bro. This is why.
Yep.
If I did do it, these would be the consequences.
Yep.
And like, hey. But then I kind of sat with it after. And then I was like, you start to think like, I like start to go down the integrity path. But then I had the realization, was like, actually, that is integral to be like, you know, own the mistake straight away
100%.
and just be like, hey, none of us are perfect.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And at least it was a month, not a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my little share.
No, I love that. And I think, you know, you're absolutely right. It's about owning, because a lot of people, and I'm sure we've all had points in our life where we bury our head, right? We are out of integrity and we don't own it. And I think people will respect you way more for being upfront and being honest and just saying, I messed up, sorry. Again, it shows character, doesn't it?
Yeah, there we go. So thanks for sharing, Mo.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, the last section of today, first of all, thanks for sharing so much wisdom, you know, from the hypnotherapy stuff, to actually sharing and being vulnerable about, you know, your journey. There's been so many takeaways, and then networking in itself, one with Bali Connect, and how powerful that is going to be for you know, the Canggu and Bali, and then also how someone can just drag and drop some of those principles into their own life and start using them. So, yeah, a ton of value.
Yeah.
But as part of the show, like at the end, we do so each guest leaves a message, and the message may be picked to the next episode, or it may be 10 episodes time.
Right.
And there was also 10 mystery messages in there at the start. Right.
Okay. Sounds great.
So yeah, you get to choose a message, and then
is it a tombola? Is it a little? Do I pick something out?
Yeah, we've got the vault.
We got the vault.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I had no idea about this. This is exciting.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
You are nature. Where in your life do you know at a deep level the truth?
Oh, say it again.
Says, you are nature. Where in your life do you know at a deep level this truth?
What, the truth that I am nature?
Yeah, so you are nature. Where in your life do you know at a deep level this truth? So I'll tell you, the truth is you are nature.
Gotcha.
That would be from Anne Marie Kramer.
Okay.
Call her Annie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that is we separate this idea that we go into nature, right? But actually we are part of nature. We are animals on this planet, part of this ecosystem. We just have developed these new ways of doing things differently to other animals, right? So I think for me, it's very easy to separate and sort of think that we go into nature and we are separate from nature. Because people talk about the time, you know, I go into nature and I relax and stuff. It's like, well, we are part of nature. We've just created these other non-natural constructs, buildings and cars and things like that aren't nature typically, in my view at least. So I think deep down at that level, I agree with that statement. I think we are nature. I think we've just detached ourselves heavily from it. So it feels like nature and us. But actually it's all one, isn't it? There's a blade of grass, a tree, a cloud, a human, or an ant. It's all nature. It's just we created a man-made construct that sort of makes it feel like we're not part of it anymore. That makes sense.
Yeah, bro, that's awesome. I love it.
Great question.
Yeah, it's a bit of one of those like thinker questions.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to read it again.
Yeah, a few times you're like, buy in time. Come on.
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's awesome. Bro, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate for who you stand for and for what you're creating, the value that you add to other people's lives, to my life. So yeah, I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's go.